Hello, everyone, and welcome to my final presentation. This is the last time you'll have to hear my voice, and I'm really excited. Not that this is the last time for that. I'm excited because we've all had a really long journey together, and it's been really fun to get to know you guys and to get closer. So here's my final take on servant leadership. I'm sure you guys have never heard me talk about this before at any given time during a module. Just kidding. Try humor. So, servant leadership, a little background to read on my research. I got to know Robert Greenleaf very intimately and what he stood for and his take on servant leadership. He is known as like the father of servant leadership. Now, the company I work for is City National Bank. You guys know a lot about them as well. Written multiple papers on them. They are a good company to work for. They do utilize some portions of servant leadership, but it's not at the level where it needs to be. And I've been using servant leadership for over 10 years. And I can tell you firsthand that it's been very successful in my experience. I do believe servant leadership is the best style. I know it's hard to adjust to, and in essence, you're letting go and giving people a little more free reign. And that's very scary, not just as a leader, but as a person and as an individual. So my ultimate goal was to take a company that I enjoy working for and that I love and try and make them better. Now, they didn't know they're the guinea pig of this entire project, but they are. It is a great place to work. I do recommend it if you want to get into banking. It does have its flaws, though, which we will go over a little bit later. So what's the problem, right? City National Bank's a good place to work for. We've already talked about it. My company's not perfect. Nobody's is. Our biggest disconnect that we have is it's not that we have poor leaders, we just don't have right leaders in the sense that leaders kind of all do their own thing, which is bound to happen, but we need to make this transition into servant leaders. And like I said before, it's taught, but it's not emphasized and it's not enforced. And that's the change that has to happen, which we'll go over a little bit more later in detail. The other part is we could work on a better retail structure for the employees and their incentive program. It is cool that the bank has an incentive sales program for its employees, but it's not where it needs to be. We're going to focus mainly on the leadership portion because that's what my presentation's about. A little history is established in 1901. It was a bank before Oklahoma was a state. Expanded to the retail locations around the 90s, which makes it very convenient for the customer. Monday through Friday, 9 to 7. Some locations, 8 o'clock. Saturday, 9 to 4. Open most holidays. I mean, there's a lot to say about the bank and how it's been around and how well that they have done for over 119 years now. That's a long time to be around for any company. So, a scope of the problem, I just kind of did a SWOT matrix. And, if you just take a look at it, it definitely outlines exactly the strengths, the opportunities, the weaknesses, the threats to it. It wants to provide a family environment. And to an extent, it does a very good job. It does believe in work-life balance, but there's a huge disconnect between what senior leadership teaches us and how we're supposed to be, and then what senior leadership actually does with us as branch managers. So if they can fully embrace that servant leadership change, we can get there. We can get them to where they need to be. So I'm a big Dilbert fan. You can take time to read this. The whole point is that the research that I'm going to do is going to show you that a servant leadership based culture that's employee centric, that gives them the tools and power to succeed, has an onboarding process, is going to give you the best results regardless of what industry that you were in. City National Bank wants their employees to have a healthy work-life balance. They need to create that by basically forcing their senior leaders to take a bigger step into servant leadership. So we're going to focus on servant leadership. We're going to focus a little bit on morale. and job effectiveness. So my hypothesis is that we're going to take my style, servant leadership, compare it to another branch of equal size, equal customer base, basically just my branch in a different location, and they just happen to have an autocratic leader, which is fine to an extent because you can only get so far with that leadership style. So we're going to compare our two branches, mine, Enid, and theirs, Marketplace. So let's take a look at the branch hitting the goal. So this is over a 4-month time period. So it's going to go between March, April, May, and June. If you can see, this is an average of all 4 months. My branch averaged 106% of the goal. Marketplace only averaged 90%. Average employees hitting goal. We have 6 employees per branch, including ourselves. So 5.25 of my employees hit their goal, and 4.5 of Marketplace's employees hit their goal. Absenteeism, that's a big one. Absenteeism and tardiness is how I'm calculating morale, since it's not a quantifiable way of to aggregate that data. I chose 2 things that I believe are affected by morale. If somebody loves coming to work, they're not going to just randomly decide to call in. So I actually had 0 absences in a 4 months time frame. I will take that. Marketplace, they did have 2.5. Obviously, it's not as good as 0. It's still not that bad, which is, good for them. The fourth part, tardiness, like I talked about. So on average, my people don't come in late. I only had 2.5 tardies out of an entire month. That was my average, with all 6 employees, compared to Marketplace, which had a whopping 6.5. And if you're opening a branch, there's nothing more annoying than someone not coming in on time. So let's talk about null hypothesis. Got this nice lady in the corner. We got to make the data work, right? That's what a good statistician does. All right, that being said, so we know we want P to be less than or equal to 0.05, so that way the null hypothesis is rejected. So my branch hitting goal, you can see I was well under that mark, so we're good to go there. Employees hitting goal, 0.32. We'll talk about that here in the next section. Unfortunately, in my case, the null hypothesis was not rejected because it was greater. Now let's go to absenteeism. If you see, of course, there was going to be a significant difference because I had 0 and Marketplace had multiple. It didn't even quantify the data because I had 0. I would. Tardiness, as you can see, the significant difference was 0.025. So once again, the null hypothesis is rejected and servant leadership wins out. So there's 3 options for City National Bank. Completely adopting servant leadership, my recommendation. Pursue another leadership style is feasible, could cost a lot of money in the long run, or maintain its current policy of, hey, you're a new leader, we have new leader orientation, here's this cool 2-hour lecture on servant leadership, go have fun, and then that's it. No onboarding, just a presentation. So my recommendation, fully adopting servant leadership is going to be the most effective choice, and it's going to have a minimal cost to the bank because it's already taught as a theory to new leaders, and there's a couple times it's talked about in the branch manager meetings. Everyone's familiar on the leadership level with the ideology of it, so why not just make it complete? As I said, the most significant change would be to hold leadership, specifically senior leadership, accountable when make this a bank-wide policy. I did have one regional who, interestingly enough, is one that teaches a class that says, you need to be servant leaders to your people, but I will not be a servant leader to you. You need, and I just thought that was very, what's the word? Hypocritical. That's a good way to put it. So my conclusion is morale and leadership is outlined in how they'd be evaluated were confirmed to have a significant difference. That was proven by higher overall branch performance, low absenteeism, low tardiness. The only one that was accepted was the individual performance. I still feel that my hypothesis stays true because I won out in multiple categories, and I've seen the results firsthand. And we all know that aggregated data doesn't tell the whole story. And the fact that I had 0 absences, a significantly lower amount of tardies, and I was able to smash my goal month in and month out leads me to believe that my hypothesis was correct. And I appreciate y'all's time, and thank you so much for listening. God bless you in your next adventures.